Alcohols Alcohols are classified as primary, secondary, or tertiary according to the number of carbon substituents that are bonded to the hydroxyl-bearing carbon. So if we look at our first example on the left here on this slide, we see an example of a primary carbon where the R or carbon-containing group is highlighted in red. Primary alcohols always have a carbon that is bonded to two hydrogen, one hydroxyl group, and then one R group. So let's look at some examples of primary alcohols. So here's some line structures of primary alcohols. Notice that the hydroxyl group is always going to be bonded to the one position, the carbon, the first carbon of the chain. So ethyl alcohol, this carbon, one carbon is bonded to the hydroxyl group, it's bonded to a methyl group, and then it has two hydrogens, which we can't expressly see because these are line structures, but we know that each carbon has to have 4 bonds, and so any bond not expressly written is going to be bonded to hydrogen. Here in propyl alcohol, this carbon that's bonded to the OH or hydroxyl or alcohol functional group is bonded to another carbon and then two hydrogens, and the same thing with butyl. This carbon in the one position is bonded to the hydroxyl, a carbon, and then two hydrogens. A secondary alcohol has two R groups bonded to the hydroxyl-bearing carbon and one hydrogen. And those R groups can be the same or different, but they must contain carbon. So let's look at some examples of secondary alcohols. So on this slide, which we saw previously when we were looking at how to name alcohols, we see 5-methyl-3-hexanol. This 3 carbon that's bonded to the hydroxyl is also bonded to 2 carbon atoms and 1 hydrogen, so it's secondary. 2-methyl-cyclohexanol is also a secondary alcohol. This 1 carbon bonded to the hydroxyl is bonded to 2 other carbons, and this is a line structure, so it's not that evident, but since carbon has to have 4 bonds, the other bond is to a hydrogen. And then also 4-chloro-6-methyl-2-heptanol is a secondary alcohol where the 2 carbon bonded to the hydroxyl is bonded to 2 other carbon groups and 1 hydrogen. A tertiary alcohol, the carbon that is bonded to the hydroxyl group does not have any hydrogens bonded to it. Instead, it has 3 carbon-containing groups bonded to it. Oops, sorry. So if we look at this example here, the carbon that is bonded to the hydroxyl group is bonded to 3 other carbon-containing groups. It has no hydrogen bonded to that carbon that is bonded to the hydroxyl, so it is a tertiary alcohol.